Following several meetings with Benjamin Netanyahu, the wanted war criminal, the American President Donald Trump came up with what he called the comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict. The Israeli Prime Minister immediately accepted that offer, and as a matter of fact, he was boasting about the fact that now he is isolating Hamas after Hamas was isolating Israel. And this is coming at a very sensitive time when international pressure is reaching unprecedented levels against Israel, as if Donald Trump, by the order of Benjamin Netanyahu, is handing Benjamin Netanyahu yet another rope, yet another ladder to climb down from, and also give him full legitimacy to continue with the genocide should the Palestinian side not accept this proposal that's coming from Donald Trump. Before we make any judgments about this proposal, let's read through some of the main clauses that came. We'll begin with the first clause. Gaza will be de-radicalized, a de-radicalized terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. They're immediately beginning with labeling the victims who are protecting their land from foreign occupation. It's not mentioning any Israeli terror. It's not mentioning the fact that Israel is committing genocide as confirmed by international law. And Donald Trump has the audacity to speak about all of this when he is sitting next to a wanted war criminal instead of arresting him. The same war criminal that had to change routes when he was going to the United States because he was worried that he will be arrested in case he lands in European countries. 2, Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza who have suffered more than enough. Suffered by who? From who? With the support of who? With which weapons? The Gazan people, the Gazan infants, the civilian population were bombed barbarically by Israelis with American weapons. The American administration armed Israel with all the lethal weapons and missiles that they landed against the innocent civilians. If both sides agree to this proposal, the war will immediately end. But there's no confirmation that it's not going to renew. Israeli forces will withdraw to the agreed upon line to prepare for a hostage release. During this time, all military operations, including aerial and artillery bombardment, will be suspended and battle lines will remain frozen until conditions are met for the complete staged withdrawal. Okay, within 72 hours, and that is the only time frame in these 20 to 21 clauses in this document. No other time frames whatsoever. There's only one time frame. And what is that time frame? Within 22 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, without the acceptance of the Palestinian side, all hostages alive and deceased will be returned. Firstly, there are no hostages. There are prisoners of war who are from the Israeli terror army. Now, these are the people who are remaining in Gaza. Then, how can you impose that? That means we're already in this time frame of Donald Trump, because the Palestinians haven't submitted an official response yet. There are certain talks that I will get to in a second in terms of the feedback, the likelihood or lack thereof of anyone accepting this agreement. But no need for the Palestinians to accept. If Israel accepted, you need to release. Okay, looking at everything from above. And again, a document that is being pushed and published by a participating country in the genocide against the Palestinian people. Once all hostages are released, Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7th, 2023. When? Is there a time frame? Within a day, a 2, within 10 years, within 20 years, within a century? We don't know. because Israel can commit to release them after 100 years when they're all dead, including all women and children detained in that context. Of course, these are not hostages, women and children. At least they're confirming that Israel kidnaps women and children. For every Israeli hostage whose remains are released, Israel will release the remains of 15 deceased Gazans, who they killed, by the way, in their prisons. Once all hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to a peaceful coexistence and decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Israel doesn't have to commit to a peaceful coexistence. As a matter of fact, Israel can commit to terror, as far as Donald Trump is concerned. And Israel doesn't have to decommission any of its weapons that they targeted the civilian population with, despite the fact that it's the equivalent of 8 nuclear bombs and nowhere near to be in any way, shape, or form equated to the Palestinian arms or the Palestinian weapons used. Okay. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries. Okay. They're trying to be appealing, as if, Hamas will accept this, and we'll get to that in a sec. Upon acceptance of this agreement, full aid will be immediately sent to the Gaza Strip. Okay. With quantities no less than what was going in the recent ceasefire agreement. Entry with the UN as well. Okay. Gaza will be governed. Here it gets interesting here. Listen to that. Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of the public services and municipalities for the people of Gaza. This committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts with oversight and supervision by a new international transitional body, the Board of Peace. These are the new colonial rulers, the Board of Peace. Who is the Board of Peace? Which will be headed and chaired by Donald Trump himself, a participant in the genocide, with other members and heads of state to be announced, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair, another war criminal who killed 1 million Iraqis. This body will set the framework and handle the funding for the redevelopment of Gaza until such time as the Palestinian Authority has completed its reform program. So, not Hamas, not the Palestinian Authority, exactly like what Benjamin Netanyahu asked for. And again, vague, no clear lines. They can always say that they did not really conduct the reform that we wanted. Therefore, they will never have any sort of authority. And there is no confirmation of any state, by the way. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump, in his press conference, said that he understands why Netanyahu doesn't want a Palestinian state. And then Netanyahu started to brag about that too, and said that he was isolating Hamas now after they were being isolated. Okay. They continued this document. This body will call on best international standards to create modern and efficient governance that serves the people of Gaza, and it's conducive to attracting investment. This is the interesting part here. Investment for what? Of course, everything to do with the development and property and all of that. They want to cash in and make a lot of money. They basically want the Arab states to pay them so they can make money to redevelop Gaza. Then they want to ensure that the same contracts handed for the gas exploration that Netanyahu, 2 weeks into the genocide, by the way, decided to hand to multinational companies, they get a piece of that as well without any sort of risk from an armed resistance in Gaza that will say, hold on a second, this is Palestinian. The gas off the shores of Gaza, we need to cut out of it because it's off our shores. But so long as this happens, Israel and, of course, these neo-colonial powers will get all of it. Again, Trump economic development, thoughtful investments, exciting development ideas on the bodies of the people, of course, creating jobs and hope and future, and all of these statements for the Gazan population. A special economic zone with preferred tariff and access rates to be negotiated with participating countries. They're not saying anything about what these investments would do to the people, by the way. And if they have a board with a new colonial ruler, the new mandate, the neo mandate, but this time with Britain and the United States, not just Britain, and what the Palestinians will get out of this. No one will be forced to leave Gaza, okay, and those who wish to leave will be free to do so and free to return. We will encourage people to stay and offer them the opportunity to build a better Gaza. Hamas and other factions agree not to have any rule in the governance of Gaza, directly or indirectly, or in any form. So we have here this document ruling out any sort of democracy. That means they don't want anything democratic in Gaza. They decide who rules. The neo-colonialists, they will decide who is going to govern Gaza. All military terror, offensive infrastructure, including tunnels and weapons, production facilities will be destroyed and not rebuilt. Nothing requested from Israel. No military terror or offensive infrastructure, only from the Palestinian side. There will be a process of demilitarization of Gaza under the supervision of independent monitors, which will include placing weapons permanently beyond use through an agreed process of decommissioning, and supported by an internationally funded buyback and reintegration program, all verified by the independent monitors. New Gaza will be fully committed to building prosperous economy and to a peaceful coexistence with their neighbors. But their neighbors, they don't have to comply with a peaceful coexistence with them. As a matter of fact, Israel can remain a terror hub for life. A guarantee will be provided to regional partners to ensure that Hamas and the factions comply with their obligations and that the new Gaza poses no threat to its neighbors or its people. But again, nothing to do with Israel. The United States will work with Arab international partners to develop a temporary international stabilization force that they're calling the ISF. They're going to be training and providing support for vetted Palestinian police forces in Gaza, consulting Jordan and Egypt who have extensive experience. The force will be the long-term internal security solution. That means some of the Arab states are going to take over the internal security matters. And that organization is going to work with Israel and Egypt to secure border areas, along with newly trained Palestinian police force. It's critical to prevent munitions from entering Gaza and to facilitate the rapid and secure flow of goods and rebuild and revitalize Gaza. A deconfliction mechanism will be agreed upon by all parties. This is one of the most dangerous clauses because it is suggesting that this force, in effect, because Donald Trump said the dealing with Hamas is going to be responsibility of the Arab countries, is handing the confrontation with Hamas, moving it from Israel to these Arab states. Did the Arab states agree to that? And will they agree to do that because they congratulated and supported Trump with that? And will they, should the Palestinians reject this agreement, be proceeding to replace the Israeli occupation forces? Something that they denied multiple times. Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza as the ISF establishes control and stability. The Israeli Defense Forces will withdraw based on standards, milestones, and timeframes linked to demilitarization that will be agreed upon between IDF, ISF, and the guarantors and the United States, with the objectives of a secure Gaza that no longer poses a threat to Israel, Egypt, or its citizens. As if Gaza posed a threat to anything but Israel. They're trying to defend themselves. They're trying to portray Gaza as if they are the culprits of terror when they are the ones who created and manufactured all of this terror and supporting Israel, not talking about anything to do with the wanted war criminal and the genocide happening in Gaza and the compensation for the Palestinian people from this genocidal entity. Also, this is opening the door to an endless war. Why? Because if they're not going to withdraw because they're not pleased with something, who cares? Plus, who's going to guarantee that Israel is going to actually adhere to any of these clauses when they broke ceasefires and agreements that they entered with American mediation. Let's be frank here. Who is gonna push them to go out? There is no confirmation that they're gonna withdraw. And Netanyahu was bragging about that again. We will remain in Gaza with the ending of the war. In the event that Hamas delays or rejects the proposal of the above, including the scaled-up aid operation, will proceed in the terror-free areas handed over from the IDF to the ISF. So we have a situation here where Donald Trump is suggesting that an area where the Palestinian resistance isn't effectively visible in, because they can be visible under the ground or anywhere, the mechanism is going to begin with the stabilization forces. And if the stabilization forces again will enter Gaza in that manner, that would make them a new occupying force as confirmed by the resistance previously. The Palestinian resistance said to everyone, any force will come in without coordination, acceptance with us, will be treated as an occupying force, like we treat the Israeli forces. Are they going to agree to that? Because if they do, then that is probably a bigger betrayal than the betrayal that the Arab regimes had towards the Palestinians in 1948 and before, in coordination with the British Empire at the time. Then, listen to this, an interfaith dialogue, peaceful coexistence, to try and change the mindsets and narratives of Palestinians and Israelis by emphasizing the benefits that can be derived from peace. So the Palestinians, we will land all of the bombs on them to try and teach them. The Israelis will give them all of the weapons and ask them, maybe, you can, if you want to kind of de-radicalize, right? Assuming that there is any sort of radicalization on the Palestinian side, by the way. Radicalization is what made Israel commit all of this barbarism inside of the Gaza. So there is no radical resistance when it comes to the Palestinian side. All of these are neo-colonialist terms deemed to portray the Palestinian resistance in a negative manner when they're the ones defending their land. It's the Israeli side that needs to de-radicalize the same people who are quoting biblical phrases to do with murdering everyone, every living thing, child, animal, woman, infant, whatever it is. And then again, the United States will establish a dialogue about a prosperous coexistence between Israelis and Palestinians. What were the responses, though? Well, again, Benjamin Netanyahu, he made a statement bragging about how he's isolating Hamas now. Israel will continue to occupy Gaza and there will not be a Palestinian state immediately after this. The Arabs, some of the Arab and Muslim leaders, including the ones who were in that meeting with Donald Trump, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, and Pakistan included, welcomed Donald Trump's proposal. Did they welcome Donald Trump's proposal after this was released? Or did Donald Trump tell them something else? Because if they are welcoming Donald Trump's proposal as it is without any acceptance from the Palestinian side, that would be, again, one of the biggest acts of treason against the Palestinian people since 1948, undeniably. Now, is the Palestinian side likely to accept this agreement? Chances are the Palestinian side, the resistance, will say that we are going to look into, they already have, we're going to look at it in a positive way, and we will let you know what we think about this proposal. However, several things were already ruled out, like disarming, like having concrete measures to declare the ending of the war and release the prisoners of war. There is no time frame for the Israeli withdrawal. There is nothing to do with timeframes for all of the Israeli actions that should take place. Therefore, there are no incentives for the Palestinian side to accept it. But the biggest sign yet that there's going to be an outright refusal from the Palestinian side with this to this agreement is the statement that we had from the second largest armed resistance movement inside of Gaza, the PIJ. Al-Nakhali, who is the Secretary General of the PIJ, said that the United States and Israeli declaration aims to impose facts on the ground by force after the failure of the war against the Palestinians. And he also added that this is going to provide Israelis with the excuse to explode the whole region. This is the second largest movement in Gaza, and usually if they come up with a statement to reject a certain agreement, all of the others will do so as well. It's not like they waited before they publicly criticized. And also there were also members from Hamas, senior figures from Hamas, said that it's unlikely that they will be accepting, they're not going to be accepting, and the people will not be accepted, because this is beyond political movements or resistance movements. It's about the future of the Palestinian case and the Palestinian cause that Donald Trump and Israel want to bury with a new neo-colonialist mandate by Donald Trump and Tony Blair, two war criminals, as if the Palestinian people cannot self-govern. And again, without any sort of talk about democracy or free elections or anything of the sort. All money-oriented and focused on the benefits for Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, all of these things mean that, well, number one, Donald Trump is coming to protect Benjamin Netanyahu after this huge isolation and more calls to mobilize against Israel and calls to take force against Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu is openly confirming that this way they're isolating the Palestinian side after Israel has been isolated, which is something that we clearly saw. The American administration is playing a very dirty game to protect Israel and remove any scrutiny by showing that, look, we came up with an idea and we both accepted it because we came up with it. And now it's Hamas's turn. If they don't accept, that means they don't want to end the war and shift the blame against Hamas, a tactic that they've used so many times. And we saw this repeatedly happening time after time. It's as if the Palestinian side will come up with a new proposal and say, I accept this proposal, and then you need to accept it too. And if you don't, that means, well, you're rejecting peace, rather than actually sitting and negotiating and talking, something that they've been doing for 2 years, with the Israeli side always breaching, fully backed by the United States of America. This proves that, well, number one, Israel isn't able to accomplish what it wants inside of the Gaza Strip without this US support. That means the only thing preventing Israel from accomplishing its missions inside of the Gaza Strip is the same thing that they want to get rid of, the resistance, and in particular, the armed resistance against Israel. In 1993, Israel had the Oslo Accords with the Palestinian Authority. Ever since then, and now, if we want to talk about now, 32 years after, they are expelling people from their homes. Over 60,000 people from Jenin were expelled from their homes. There's an ethnic cleansing campaign happening inside of the West Bank, and Israel increased its squatting establishment from 100,000 to approximately 1 million. In 1982, when there was an agreement with the PLO to get out of Beirut at the time, we had the Sabra and Shatila massacre that was carried out by sectarian gangs in Lebanon who worked directly under the then defense minister, Ariel Sharon. This is what they're preparing for the Palestinian people. They want the Palestinian people to have nothing whatsoever that can deter any future Israeli aggression or expansion inside of the Gaza Strip or other territories as well, so that they can slaughter them with ease and do as they wish without any scrutiny whatsoever. It is exceptionally important that everyone who wants what's best for the people of Gaza understands what is being put on the table here. Everyone wants to see an end to the misery inside of Gaza. Everyone wants to see peace. Who doesn't want to see peace? But what's being proposed here is the expansion of the Israeli supremacy and genocide backed by the United States and other countries, with support potentially from some of these Arab and Muslim countries who were sitting with Donald Trump. And that is something that is very unlikely to be accepted by the Palestinian side, let alone by anyone who genuinely supports the Palestinian people and their equal human rights that they deserve, and their striving and their work for and towards a sovereign state. And then again, if we want to talk about a sovereign state, it's much easier for them to say, well, Israelis, Palestinians, equal rights between the Jordan River to the sea. But then again, they don't want to come up with that because they want to prolong the existence of the state of Israel as a neo-colonialist entity that can start another genocide whenever it wishes.